On Thanksgiving, my son-in-law, swaggering and sure of himself, called me worthless trash in front of the entire family, confident there would be no consequences. The next morning, he was greeted by 3 communications, one from me, one from my attorney, and one from the bank. The very words meant to break me snapped back at him and set off a chain of events that would alter his life forever. Betrayal inside a family woke up a brand of justice nobody expected. Before we go any further, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. Dad, you can't just cut us off like that. Emily's voice fractured across the dining room, her fork ringing against fine china. The carved turkey sat half-eaten, its bronzed skin cooling into a forgotten centerpiece. Mark leaned back in his chair, rotating the wine in his glass with the deliberate flair of a man who enjoys an audience. John, we had an agreement. $3,000 a month. Emily has been counting on that money. I set the carving knife down, slowly, deliberately. Around the table, people shifted in uneasy silence. My sister, Linda, traded a worried glance with her husband, Tom. Mark's brother, Mike, paused mid-chew, while his wife, Sarah, reached for her water with trembling fingers. We had no agreement, I said, calm and steady. I helped because I chose to help. Help? Mark let out a sharp, bitter laugh. You call abandoning your daughter help? She's struggling because of you. His accusation drifted through the room like smoke refusing to clear. Fresh tears streaked through Emily's mascara as she glanced between her husband and me, trapped inside a war she hadn't asked for. I raised 5 children after your mother passed, I continued, my voice leveled despite the heat in my chest. I put every one of them through college. I bought this house so there would always be a place for us to come together. Ancient history, Mark interrupted with a dismissive flick of his hand. What matters is the present. What matters is your daughter needs support, and you're too selfish to give it. The only noise in the room was the patient ticking of the grandfather clock. Tom cleared his throat without saying a word. Mike rearranged food on his plate, refusing eye contact. Selfish? The word felt strange on my tongue. Mark stood, his chair scraping loudly against the hardwood. The wine had made him reckless. His face flushed as he pointed across the mahogany table. Yes, the one my wife picked out 3 decades earlier. Yes, selfish. You sit here in this big house hoarding your money while your own daughter's drowning in a mortgage and pulling double shifts to keep the fridge full. My jaw tightened. Emily works part-time at a boutique. That's not the point. Mark slammed his glass down so hard the stem cracked. Red wine bled across the white tablecloth. The point is, family looks after family. But you? He stepped closer, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You're worthless trash. My wife deserved a better father. The room detonated in gasps. Linda's hand flew to her mouth. Sarah knocked over her water, ice scattering over linen. Mike finally looked up, eyes wide with shock. But what settled over me wasn't rage. Something colder took root: clarity, sharp and clean as frost. The explosion everyone expected never arrived. Instead, I stood, slow and controlled, my napkin sliding to the floor. All eyes fixed on me, waiting for thunder that didn't come. Mark edged back a step, maybe realizing he'd crossed a line you can't uncross. Dinner's over, I said, simple, final. People flinched at the finality. Emily tried to speak, but I raised a hand. Not rude, simply decisive. The gesture of a man who had made a choice. I walked toward my study. Behind me, chairs scraped and whispers broke out. At the doorway, I paused without turning. Mike, please help your family gather their things. Behind me, Mark was already hissing at Emily. Something about standing his ground and not letting an old man push him around. The confidence was gone. His voice sounded hollow, desperate. I closed the study door and crossed to my desk. Through the window, my neighbor's home glowed warm. Another family likely sharing pie and football, unaware that destinies were being rewritten next door. My fingers found the brass handle of the drawer where I keep records. 3 months of withdrawn support. $850,000 in savings. 45 years of building a business. Mark Davis had just made the worst mistake of his life. 2 hours later, I turned off the dining room lights. The broken stem had left a permanent stain on Anna's favorite tablecloth. I wrapped the leftover turkey, stacked dishes, and drifted through the house on instinct. The study felt smaller. My mahogany desk, usually a sanctuary, seemed burdened by two words: worthless trash. I pulled out my chair and sat hard, staring up at the photograph of Anna that had watched over me for a dozen years. I kept my promise, I whispered to her, smile. The drawer creaked open in the familiar way it always had. Inside sat 12 years of financial records, sorted in manila folders labeled "In My Careful Hand." December 2012 through November 2024. An archive of sacrifice spelled out in bank statements and canceled checks. I reached for my old Texas Instruments calculator, the one that helped me thread tight deals decades ago. The arithmetic was blunt. $3,000 every month for 12 years. My fingers moved by muscle memory. 12 months in a year. 144 months total. $432,000 in base transfers alone. But that number didn't tell the whole story. The red folder held the extras. $8,000 when Mark's Toyota needed a new transmission. $12,000 for Emily's surgery when insurance didn't reach far enough. $5,000 toward the down payment on their house. $4,000 for Mark's certification course that never delivered the promotion he swore was sure. Each receipt hummed the same tired refrain. Just this once, John. We'll pay you back. Last time, we'll need help. Those promises collected like dust on the top shelf. I opened the folder labeled Conversations. It's a business habit. Write down the important talks. Anna always said memory wanders, but ink doesn't. December 15th, 2012. Emily's voice breaking. Dad, Mark is really trying to find steady work. Could you help with rent until he's settled? March 3rd, 2015. Mark's voice confident. John, the promotion's basically locked. Give me 6 months and we're independent. August 12th, 2018. Emily, again. We know we said 6 months, but the housing market is wild. Mark's working on something big at his company. October 4th, 2021. Mark irritated. We appreciate the help, but we're adults. We don't need lectures about budgeting. Entry after entry. Small betrayals wrapped in family language. Promises missed. Deadlines ignored. Gratitude replaced by entitlement. I closed my eyes and drifted back to that December morning when Anna's breath went shallow. She squeezed my hand with surprising strength. Promise me you'll look after our girl, she whispered. Emily will need guidance. She's too trusting, too open-hearted. I didn't hesitate, but Anna never said I had to carry Mark too. The calculator display glowed in the lamplight. $487,350. Nearly $500,000. More than most earn in a decade, more than anything I'd paid for except this house. I leaned into the leather chair Anna gave me on my 50th birthday. The same chair where I grew a small logistics outfit into a company with 37 employees, where I negotiated contracts worth millions, where I learned successful people don't explode, they plan. Mark called me worthless trash, in my home, at my table. Trash is something you throw out. Worthless is a judgment, and judgments can be reconsidered. I scrolled through contacts I hadn't used in months. Former partners, attorneys, people who specialize in solving thorny problems when asked the right way. Tomorrow would be a different sort of day. Dawn threaded through the blinds by the time I pushed the ledgers aside. My coffee had gone cold. Sleep felt like a rumor. The house felt charged now, purpose humming in the walls. I opened the bottom drawer of the cabinet, the one I rarely touched anymore. Old legal documents sat in neat lines, property deeds, contract templates, partnership agreements. In a folder labeled Family Legal, I found what I needed. The 2016 mortgage package. Mark's signature sprawled over page 12, confident, careless. Above it, in the guarantor line, my name in careful block letters. I remembered that afternoon. Emily begged me to co-sign because Mark's credit wasn't quite enough for the dream house. Just a backup, Dad. You'll never actually need to pay. 8 years later, I realized what he misunderstood or ignored. I hadn't just guaranteed their mortgage. I owned 30% of that house. Business instincts clicked on. Real property law isn't mystical when you respect fundamentals. As a guarantor with an ownership stake, I had standing to demand immediate debt resolution. I could force a sale. I could call the loan. Mark had no idea. I pulled out my old leather address book, 3 decades of deals tucked between its pages. Peter Ross's card sat right where I'd left it, my lawyer of 15 years, the man who handled my contracts and guided me through Anna's estate. At 7 on the dot, I dialed his direct line. Peter Ross. Peter, it's John Miller. I need counsel on a family matter. John, he said warmly, how are you holding up? I know holidays are hard since Anna. I'm all right, but I have a situation with my daughter's mortgage that requires immediate attention. He shifted into business mode. What kind of situation? I co-signed and hold an ownership stake. The borrowers have become irresponsible, publicly disrespectful. I want to know my options. I see. When can you come in? Give me an hour to review some property law precedents. Can you make it by 9? 2 hours to shower, dress, and order the file. I'll be there. Bring originals, mortgage, payment records, correspondence. Already done. John Peters' voice softened. Are you sure this is the road you want? Family cases can get complicated. I glanced at Anna's photo, then at a stack proving 12 years of one-way support. Yesterday, my son-in-law called me worthless trash in front of everyone, I said. In my house, at my table. The line went quiet for several beats. I'll see you at 9, Peter said. After I hung up, I watched Boise wake up outside my window. Commuters heading to jobs were there treated with respect. Ordinary life proceeding as usual, while a careful response took shape just a few blocks away. I dressed in my best suit. Today required it. The elevator chimed at the 12th floor of Harrison Tower. Peter's office took up the corner suite, floor-to-ceiling glass facing downtown. I'd been here a dozen times, but today was different. I wasn't asking about contracts. I was asking about consequences. Peter greeted me at the door, silver hair immaculate despite the hour. We'd known each other long enough to skip the handshake. John, you look... He studied my face. Resolved. I am. The conference room smelled of leather and old books. I laid out documents with practiced efficiency, mortgage agreements, property deeds, guarantor papers, a 12-year trail of payments. Peter took the mortgage first, his eyes moving quickly. 2016, you co-signed for the Maple Street property, 30% ownership. I remember the banker explaining your rights, I said, but I never thought I'd exercise them, because you didn't plan to need to. Peter tapped the guarantor clause. Legally, you hold significant leverage. As co-owner and guarantor, you can accelerate repayment of debt secured by the property. A cold satisfaction slid through me. Which debts? Mortgage balance, home equity line, any credit account secured by the house. He looked up. Have you checked their current standing? That's next. Peter leaned back, concern settling in behind his professional expression. I've known you since Anna. This isn't your usual way. Yesterday wasn't my usual way either. But Mark made it plain how he sees me. What exactly did he say? I met his eyes. Worthless trash. In front of the family. In my own home. Peter's jaw set. I understand. And you want to respond through proper channels. I want to respond appropriately. At 1:30 that afternoon, I sat across from Laura White in River City Bank's customer relations office. She'd managed commercial accounts for 15 years and recognized my name the second I called. Mr. Miller, I see you're listed as co-owner on the Maple Street property. What can I do for you? I slid the documents across her desk. I'd like to review the full status of all accounts tied to this address. Her fingers flew over the keys. Her expression stayed neutral, but her eyes widened a fraction as data loaded. Primary account holder, Mark Davis. Current mortgage balance, $218,000. Home equity line balance, $47,000. She scrolled. There are 3 credit accounts secured by the property as well. Total credit card debt, $34,000 across multiple accounts. Payment history? She stopped, scanning. 18 months of consistent late payments. 2 accounts presently in default. Pieces clicked into place. Mark's swagger had been bankrolled by money he didn't have, padded by money he seemed to think he deserved. What are my rights as co-owner? Laura chose her words carefully. You can demand resolution. If the primary borrower can't satisfy the obligations, you may initiate foreclosure or force a sale. Timeline? 30 days written notice to the borrower. If there's no resolution, legal action can begin immediately after. I thanked her and gathered my papers. The drive home felt different. My briefcase no longer carried just old documents. It carried leverage. Ammunition Mark had unknowingly supplied. The sun was low when I pulled into my driveway. Tomorrow was Friday time to organize the next phase. He'd called me worthless trash on Thursday. By the following Friday, he'd understand precisely what that insult cost. That evening, I cleared my desk to bare wood and rebuilt my battlefield. Deeds in one stack, financials in another, relevant case law in a third. The room transformed from study to war room. On a yellow legal pad, I made 3 columns. What I know, what I suspect, what I need to prove. The suspicions ran longest. Mark's lifestyle never matched his paycheck, even when I was floating them. Restaurant tabs. The newest phone every cycle. Weekend trips Emily mentioned casually. I had assumed he was simply bad with money. But what if it was uglier than that? Saturday morning, I called Peter at home. I need a private investigator, quiet and competent. What kind of digging? Finances? Gambling? Hidden debt? All of the above, I said. He paused. Adam Cole. Former detective. Discreet, thorough. I'll text you his number. Boise Investigative Services occupied a rehabbed warehouse. Modest, neat. Adam looked younger than I expected, early 50s, with watchful eyes that rarely miss much. Mr. Ross filled me in, he said. You suspect financial misconduct in the family. I slid the basics across his desk. My son-in-law. I want everything from the past 18 months, gambling in particular, among other things. He quoted his fee, outlined his methods, and promised a comprehensive, admissible report within 48 hours. Sunday morning, my phone rang before I finished my first cup of coffee. You'll want to see this in person, Adam said. The report ran 11 pages. Mark's online poker dated back 22 months, sports bets, casino sites, daily sessions averaging 2 to 4 hours. The numbers turned my stomach. $28,000 in gambling losses over 18 months, Adam said, pointing to a spreadsheet. A hidden checking account your daughter doesn't know about. 3 secret credit cards. He's diverting roughly 40% of his salary. The timing? Gambling spiked right after your monthly payments stopped. He used credit to maintain the lifestyle your support had funded. I studied the transactions. This wasn't mere carelessness. It was compulsion. There's more, Adam added. 2 payday loans both overdue. A personal loan from his brother Mike, also hidden from Emily. Total undisclosed debt around $55,000. The room seemed colder. It wasn't just that he had insulted me. He had been methodically deceiving my daughter while leaning on my generosity. One last thing, Adam said, sliding over a page. He's been researching bankruptcy. Downloaded do-it-yourself guides. Browsed local attorneys. He's planning to default across the board. That evening, I sat at my desk with the evidence spread out in front of me. Mark's financial life laid bare. The gambling, the lies, the addiction to other people's money. He had called me worthless trash while quietly paving the road to ruin for my daughter and my granddaughter. I opened my laptop and started typing. 3 documents. 3 messages timed for Monday morning at specific intervals. Each one would peel back a layer of his false security until he grasped how little control he had. The first would go directly to Mark at 9 a.m. The second would be sent to the bank at 11 EOR. The third would wait until he came to me asking for mercy he'd never offered. At 8 o'clock Monday morning, I sat at my desk with cooling coffee and 3 printed packets. The first was personal. The others were strictly business. I typed a text slowly. Don't contact trash again. Check your mail. Send. Delivered. Instantly. He would know exactly what those words meant and where they came from. At 8:15, my phone rang. Peter, file the eviction notice. It's ready, he said. Certified mail goes out this morning. I'll email you a copy right now. I forwarded the email to myself and printed the notice. 30 days to vacate. Co-owner rights cited. Letterhead crisp. All the fine print he had never bothered to read. At 8:30, I called Laura White. Laura, I'm accelerating all debts secured by the Maple Street property. Of course, Mr. Miller. As co-owner, you have that right. We'll issue demand letters today. Include a specific timeline. 10 days for full payment, $34,000 plus interest. Papers will be prepared within the hour. 3 strikes: personal, legal, financial. He would spend the morning discovering that his comfort was built on sand and the tide was coming in. I waited. At 11:07, the phone lit up with Emily's name. Dad, what's happening? Mark got these papers this morning. He's spiraling. There's something about eviction, and the bank is calling for immediate payment, and I don't understand. What did Mark tell you? He won't tell me anything. He keeps saying it can't be real, that you can't do this, that this has to be a mistake. Her voice broke. Dad, please, tell me what's going on. Do you remember Thanksgiving dinner? What does that have to do with... Your husband called me worthless trash in front of the entire family. Silence stretched out across the line. When she spoke again, her voice had shrunk. Dad, he was wrong, I know. But these papers, you can't just throw us out of our home. Actually, I can. I own 30% of your house. I guaranteed your mortgage when Mark's credit wasn't enough. He apparently forgot that when he decided to insult me. You? You own part of our house? Read the closing packet, Emily. My name sits right beside his. Her sobbing deepened. But Dad, we live here. Emma's school is here. We can't just leave. You should have weighed that before your husband judged me worthless. Please. The word cracked. He's sorry. He really is. I looked at Anna's photograph. Actions have consequences. Respect can be earned or squandered. Tell Mark that the trash has cut off his life support. I ended the call and watched December rain draw silver lines down the window. Somewhere across town, Mark Davis was learning what it cost to insult the wrong man. My coffee was cold, but I felt warmer than I had in years. Tuesday brought the first collapse. Emily called at 9:15, her voice ragged. Dad, Mark lost his job yesterday. He couldn't think straight after those papers. He made 3 big mistakes on a client project. They let him go. I sipped fresh coffee and watched sparrows argue over crumbs on the patio. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate, she echoed. Dad, he's been there 6 years. We rely on that paycheck. How can you just... Your husband made his choice at Thanksgiving. The line filled with her breathing. Please, she whispered. Please ask Mr. Ross to withdraw the filing. Tell the bank to unfreeze our cards. We can fix this. That isn't possible. I set the phone down and opened the paper. Markets were strong. My portfolio had risen 2% this quarter. By Wednesday, the fallout had spread. Laura called to confirm. The freeze is complete. All credit access is suspended pending resolution, she reported with gentle professionalism. Mr. Davis attempted to withdraw cash yesterday and was declined. He has requested multiple meetings with branch management. The 10-day timeline remains. Correct, I said. December 12th for full payment of $34,000 plus accumulated interest. Emily called again that afternoon, nearer to panic. Dad, they froze everything. Checking, savings, credit cards. I couldn't buy groceries today. Emma asked why I was crying in the store. My granddaughter, 8 years old, brown curls like her grandmother. She didn't deserve the chaos, but Mark should have considered his family before he set fire to mine. These are standard banking procedures when a co-owner accelerates secured debts. Co-owner, she cried. You keep saying that like it changes anything. It changes everything, Emily. I own 30% of your house. I guaranteed your mortgage when your husband couldn't. It gives me authority to demand immediate payment. You're destroying us. Your husband destroyed himself. I'm just pulling back the curtain. Thursday morning, I was watering Anna's orchids when the phone rang again. Emily's number. I let it go 4 times before picking up. Mark hasn't slept in 3 days, she said, without greeting. He's lost 12 pounds. He stares at the legal notices like they're in a language he can't read. Perhaps he should have learned to read documents before signing them. Stop it, she exploded. Just stop being cruel. This isn't you. This isn't the man who raised me. I moved back to my desk. Anna's eyes, gentle as ever, looked out from the frame. This is precisely the man who raised you, Emily. This is what happens when someone mistakes kindness for weakness. What do you want from us? I want your husband to understand that words cost. That calling someone worthless trash comes with a bill. He knows he was wrong. Does he? Has he called me? Has he said it to my face? Silence lengthened. He's too proud, she admitted. Then he can keep his pride in somebody else's house. Dad, please. I'm begging you. This will only get worse, won't it? Outside, the December sky folded itself into gray, promising snow. Winter was coming to Boise, and Mark Davis was about to learn how cold it could be. This is only the beginning, Emily. Saturday morning, the doorbell rang while I read the business section. Through the window, I saw Mark's Toyota in the drive, the same one I helped fix 3 years ago with an $8,000 loan that never came back. He stood on my porch looking 5 years older and 5 days more exhausted. His shirt hung loose, his face was drawn and unshaven. His eyes looked hollowed out by the absence of sleep. John, I need to talk. I opened the door and gestured to the study. He followed like a man walking into his own verdict. Sit, I said, lowering into my chair while he remained standing. I was wrong, he said, voice fractured. What I said on Thanksgiving was out of line. You've helped our family for years, and I had no right. I leaned back and said nothing. John, call off the lawyers and the bank, please. I'll apologize. I'll do whatever you want. Just please don't take the house. Emily is falling apart. Emma keeps asking why her mom cries. Do you understand your legal position, Mark? He swallowed. I know you own part of the house. I didn't know that. If I had, I would never have. What else do you understand? The bank wants $34,000 in 10 days. I don't have it. I don't have anything. His voice broke. I lost my job because I couldn't think after those papers. Everything is coming apart. I slid open a drawer, pulled out a legal pad, and wrote in block letters. These are my terms for halting proceedings. He leaned forward. First, you will apologize publicly at Christmas dinner, in front of every person who heard you on Thanksgiving. I okay? Yes. Second, you will acknowledge that you have been financially irresponsible and ungrateful for 12 years of support. He flushed and nodded. Third, you will sign a written agreement never to ask me for financial help again. John, that's... Fourth, you will say out loud that you called your wife's father worthless trash and that it was completely unacceptable. He stared at me, understanding landing hard. You want me to humiliate myself. I want you to tell the truth. This isn't an apology, it's a breakdown. I placed the pen down. You had a choice on Thanksgiving, Mark. You chose a public humiliation. Now you have another choice. He stood slowly, hands shaking. Maybe exhaustion, maybe rage. I won't grovel. I won't burn what's left of my dignity to feed your revenge. Then you'll lose the house, I said evenly. Maybe more. But I won't make myself pathetic. He reached the door and turned back. I was wrong to call you trash. But right now I'm not sure you're any better than me. The door closed with that quiet finality that leaves an echo. I pulled Adam Cole's report closer. There was still a shard of pride in him. Time to teach him what pride costs. Monday morning, I opened my address book to professional contacts. 35 years of relationships written in tidy rows. IT managers, HR leads, business owners, people who picked up when I called. I started with David King at Summit Tech. David, it's John Miller. I hear Mark Davis might be seeking a role with your team. Give me a second. He checked. Yes, resume came in Friday. Solid technical background. I owe you candor, I said. He was just terminated for performance issues tied to stress. Also concerns about financial responsibility and judgment under pressure. Appreciate the heads up, John. We'll weigh that seriously. By noon, I had made 8 similar calls. By Wednesday, every major IT shop in Boise had passed. Thursday afternoon, Emily called again. Dad, something is wrong. Mark keeps getting turned away after strong initial interest. It's like someone is warning them. I set down my coffee. Boise's business community is small, Emily. Word travels fast. Word about what? His termination. His trouble with pressure. The legal and financial issues circling him. Her voice dropped. You're doing this. You're sabotaging him. I'm offering accurate information so companies don't make expensive mistakes. How can you be so cold? We need that income. Emma needs stability. Mark needed to accept my terms. He chose pride. You're dismantling us piece by piece. I'm teaching consequences. Silence stretched thin. I won't let you do this to my family, she said finally. If you're at war with my husband, you're at war with me. Emily, no, I'm done choosing. I choose him. The dial tone sounded like a bell tolling in an empty church. Friday morning brought the final piece into place. Peter called to confirm the debt collection suit had been filed. Court date, January 15th. He'll need to explain why he can't meet obligations, and the timeline for seizing the property if we win. If he said, then caught himself when we win, we can move to foreclose within 30 days. I hung up and looked out at a neighbor hanging Christmas lights preparing for warmth and company and tradition. I had lost my daughter, but Mark Davis would lose everything. Justice sometimes requires a price. Anna taught me that when she chose to fight her cancer. She lost the battle but never surrendered her dignity. Mark would not get that luxury. By Christmas, he would fully understand what happens when you call John Miller worthless trash. Monday brought an early call. Linda's name flashed at 7:30 earlier than any call from her in 15 years. John, we need to talk about what you're doing to Emily and Mark. Good morning to you too, Linda, I said. Don't start with that polite tone. Emily called me sobbing. She says you're using your contacts to poison Mark's job search. I'm providing accurate references so companies avoid costly mistakes. You're destroying that family piece by piece, she snapped. He said something stupid at dinner. People say stupid things when they're stressed. What you're doing is cruel. Tuesday, Mike called. John, I know Mark was out of line, but this is too far. He can't find work anywhere in Boise. They're going to lose the house. He should have weighed those consequences before he insulted me in my home. You're punishing Emily and Emma for what he did. Wednesday, Tom called. I've known you 30 years, John. This isn't like you. He admits he was wrong. Isn't that enough? Has he apologized to me? He's too proud. Then he isn't sorry enough. Thursday evening, Sarah called, voice trembling. Mr. Miller, I have daughters. I can't imagine watching them suffer because of one terrible comment. Please, can't you let this go for Emma's sake? Each call was water wearing down stone. By Friday, I found myself staring out the window longer, watching other families gear up for Christmas while mine prepared for a different kind of gathering. Had I gone too far? The thought crept in during quiet moments. His insult lasted 30 seconds. My response had lasted 3 weeks. Careful, relentless. Then I remembered his sneer. The satisfaction in his voice, like he had been saving that phrase for years. Saturday morning, Linda rang again. Christmas dinner is at my house. Everyone will be there except you, unless you end this. You're choosing him over me? I'm choosing Emily over your pride. Sunday night, alone in a house trimmed with Anna's ornaments, I pulled Adam's report from the drawer 11 pages of gambling, secret debt, and bankruptcy plans that would have scorched Emily's credit and Emma's college fund. The family thought they understood the story. They had cast Mark as the victim and me as the villain, based on incomplete facts. Christmas was 4 days away. Time to correct the narrative. I called Linda. Change of plans, I told her. I'll be at Christmas dinner and I'm bringing documents everyone should see. December 26th delivered vindication in Peter's voice. The court has expedited your hearing to January 15th. Judge Carter reviewed the filings and sees no complexity. I leaned back, watching snow gather on the fence. No complexity because Mark has no legal ground. Exactly. Co-ownership is clear. Debt is documented. Default is uncontested. It should be straightforward. January 15th arrived gray and cold. The Ada County Courthouse felt as solemn as it should. Peter and I presented our case. Across the aisle, Mark sat with a public defender who looked as if he'd rather be anywhere else. Judge Carter moved through our evidence. Deeds, mortgage agreements, 12 years of payments, bank statements mapping out Mark's irresponsibility. Mr. Davis, the judge said, do you dispute Mr. Miller's 30% ownership of 1247 Maple Street? Mark barely whispered. No, Your Honor. Do you dispute your obligation to satisfy the outstanding secured debt of $34,000? No, Your Honor. Then the court orders immediate satisfaction or forfeiture of your property rights. You have 30 days to vacate. 3 weeks later, I drove past Maple Street. Sheriff's cars stood in the driveway. Movers loaded furniture under watchful eyes. Mark moved boxes to his Toyota in weary mechanical motions. Emily stood with Emma on the porch, both of them crying. That evening, my phone rang. Dad? Emily's voice sounded small, unsure. I've been reading the court file. All those records? Yes. You supported us for 12 years. The down payment, the car repair, my surgery, Emma's school clothes, everything. I waited. I had no idea how much you gave. I thought you were being cruel because he hurt your feelings. And now? Now I see we were living on your generosity the entire time. We never truly owned that house. Without you, we'd have lost everything years ago. Silence stretched like a bridge being built, one plank at a time. I'm sorry, Dad. I chose him over you. I was wrong. You weren't being vindictive, you were done. You stopped what we treated like an entitlement. Where are you staying? A 2-bedroom on the south side. It's small, but it's what I can manage on the boutique paycheck. And Mark? He's empty. He stares at the walls. I don't think he understood how much we depended on you until it was gone. I looked at Anna's picture. She always believed truth reveals itself when people are ready. Emily, there's something else you should know about Mark, why the finances were worse than you realized. What do you mean? Come to dinner on Sunday. Just you and Emma. There's one more document you need to see. Sunday afternoon, Emily arrived holding Emma's hand. My granddaughter had grown taller. Her brown curls brushing her shoulders like Anna's when we first met. Thank you for having us, Emily said softly. We sat in the living room where Anna's piano still holds family photos from happier seasons. Emma spread out coloring books while Emily and I spoke like two adults for the first time in years. I've had 2 months to think, she began. The court orders, the ledgers, all those years you carried us. I nodded, letting her finish. Mark was wrong to call you worthless trash. I was wrong to take his side. You weren't trying to hurt us. You were finished. We took your help for granted. And now I understand respect has to go both ways. Family doesn't mean Mark gets to insult you and pretend nothing happened. Emma looked up. Grandpa, why doesn't Dad live with us anymore? The question landed heavy. Your dad made some poor choices, sweetie, I said gently. Sometimes grown-ups have to face the results of those choices. When Emma went back to her crayons, I walked to my study and returned with Adam Cole's report, the same 11 pages I had kept until the right moment. There's more you need to know about Mark's money problems, I said. Emily lifted her eyes. He has a gambling addiction. He's been gambling online for more than 2 years. 28,000 in losses hidden from you. That's... She went pale. That can't be... I handed her the report. A secret bank account. Multiple gambling sites. Daily sessions when you thought he was working late. Her expression moved from disbelief to horror to a thin sort of relief. This explains the mood swings, the secrecy, the anger when I asked about money. He was planning to file bankruptcy to erase his losses while wrecking your credit to cover them. She set the report down and looked at me with Anna's eyes. You knew. You could have told me months ago and ended this fast. You needed the full picture, I said, piece by piece, so you'd understand, not just react to shock. So all of this, the filings, the calls to your network, the losses, it wasn't only about that insult. It was a lesson for both of us, about consequences, respect, financial responsibility, honesty. Emma looked up again. Are you and Mom friends now? I smoothed her curls. We're family, Emma. Family forgives when people own what they've done. Emily's eyes filled. Can you forgive me, Dad? I already have. But we do things differently now. We rebuild on respect and truth. And Mark? Mark has learned that calling someone worthless trash carries a very expensive price. Outside, spring crept into Boise New Green, pushing through where winter had taken its tax. Anna would have been proud. I protected our daughter, taught hard truths, and kept my dignity intact. Justice, applied carefully and patiently, did the rest. Sometimes the best revenge is letting someone feel the full weight of their own choices. If this story resonated, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thanks for watching.